Hey guys, what if 10 modern Navy SEALs tried to take over the entire city of ancient Sparta? Not through a massive battle, but through planning, stealth, and smart operations. Could they actually pull it off? Today, we're looking at that exact question, and we're keeping it as realistic as possible. First, we have to understand the scale of the challenge. Ancient Sparta was not just a normal city. At its height, the main city had thousands of Spartan citizens, and the surrounding region of Laconia had even more people under Spartan control. The Spartans were famous for their extremely strict military society and highly trained warriors. On the other side, we only have 10 Navy SEALs. These guys are among the best trained special forces in the world. They specialize in stealth missions, intelligence gathering, sabotage, and targeted operations. However, they have very real limitations. They carry limited ammunition, limited explosives, and they can't fight thousands of people at once. So a direct fight would be impossible. If these 10 SEALs wanted any chance of success, they would have to use their brains much more than their guns. This would have to be a covert operation from start to finish.
The first step would be planning. They would spend a long time studying everything they could about Sparta. They would learn about the city's layout, the habits of the Spartan warriors, the locations of important leaders, and how the city's defenses worked. Good planning would be the difference between success and failure. Once they had a solid plan, they would need to get inside the city. One of the most realistic ways would be through disguise. The SEALs could pose as traders or travelers from another Greek region. They could hide their modern weapons and equipment inside carts or wagons carrying normal goods. If they acted naturally, the guards at the city gates might not suspect anything unusual. After entering the city, their first real mission would be gathering intelligence. They would spend several days quietly observing everything. They would learn the daily routines of the Spartan warriors, note the locations of important buildings, and identify the best routes for moving around without being seen. They would also try to figure out who the most important leaders were and where they lived. This phase would be extremely important. The more they knew about the city and its people, the better their chances would be later. Rushing into action without good information would be very dangerous. After gathering enough information, they would begin the next phase, targeted operations. Instead of trying to fight the entire Spartan army, they would focus on high-value targets. This could include assassinating one or two important Spartan leaders or kings. In Sparta, removing key leaders could create confusion and weaken the city's ability to respond quickly. They could also carry out sabotage missions. For example, they might try to damage or destroy important supplies, weapon storage areas, or training facilities. These kinds of actions would make it harder for the Spartans to organize a strong defense. However, they would have to be extremely careful. Sparta was a very militarized society. The people were used to discipline and watching for threats. If the SEALs made too much noise or left too many clues, the Spartans would eventually realize that something strange was happening inside their city.
At some point, they would likely try to take control of a key location inside the city. This could be a building with strategic importance or a position that gave them some defensive advantage. However, holding any position for a long time would be very difficult. The hard reality is this. Even with excellent planning and execution, 10 men cannot permanently take over a city like Sparta. There were simply too many Spartan warriors. Once the Spartans fully organized and responded with their full strength, the SEALs would eventually be overwhelmed. At best, the 10 Navy SEALs could cause serious damage. They could eliminate important leaders, destroy key supplies, and create major confusion inside the city for several days or even a couple of weeks. But holding the entire city long-term would be almost impossible. In the end, this kind of mission would show both the power and the limits of small, highly trained special forces. The SEALs would prove how dangerous modern tactics, training, and technology can be, even against one of history's most legendary warrior societies. But they would also show that numbers still matter, especially when you're trying to take over an entire city. So, could 10 Navy SEALs actually take over ancient Sparta? They could probably cause major problems and weaken the city significantly. But fully taking over and holding the entire city? It would be extremely difficult and most likely impossible in the long run. What do you guys think? Could they do it with the perfect plan? Or would the numbers be too much against them? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this realistic what-if scenario, like the video and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.